Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, Brad Holmes a few days ago had his annual pre-draft press conference as the Detroit Lions general manager, and he addressed a lot of things in the long interview. Things ranging from where the Detroit Lions are right now, the potential trading scenarios that the Detroit Lions have talked about, and the potential trading scenarios the Lions have been in conversation about, whether they will trade up to number 1 or trade back from number 2, what possibilities and what positions are in play at that number 2 overall pick, as well as what kind of personalities they're looking for and how they weigh production versus potential in this NFL draft. There was a lot to unpack and a lot to unfold, and I think at the end of this press conference, we have a better idea of who the Detroit Lions are either in or out on when it comes to the number 2 overall pick. And today, we are going to talk about all of it, starting off with the trade talks. Now, we mentioned this yesterday. We did a whole video on this yesterday talking about the likelihood of the Detroit Lions trading back from number 2. And Brad Holmes mentioned in this press conference that it seems very, very unlikely that the Detroit Lions will end up trading away this number 2 overall pick. The suitors haven't been there. The calls haven't been there. And he said even over the last month, he has seen a decrease in willingness to trade for that number 2 overall pick. And he's seen less and less calls come through about potential offers for that second overall selection, meaning the Detroit Lions are officially likely going to be stuck at the number 2 overall pick. And he even shut down the rumor that the Lions may be looking to trade up at number 1, saying right now we are in a good place. We are confident in our process up to this point, and that they have narrowed it down and feel confident about where they are at, and that they are just going to let it play out, and they're going to let the process unfold very similarly to what they did last year to how they landed Penei Sewell, right? They had their guys identified. They had Micah Parsons pinned in at that 7th overall selection, but once things started playing out, once Penei Sewell started falling, they decided to make a last-minute change, and they decided to go with the offensive tackle out of Oregon opposed to the edge rusher from Penn State. They're going to take a very similar approach this offseason. They're going to take a very similar approach in this year's class, and they're going to let it play out. They're going to let their guy fall to them. They're going to let their guys fall through the draft. If they feel as though one of their guys will not get to their next pick, they will make a move like we saw with Derek Barnes a season ago. But at the end of the day, they're not going to trade up to number 1. And honestly, I don't think they're going to trade back from number 2. I think they're going to let the process play out. If the right offer comes through, then Brad Holmes is willing to make it. But if it doesn't play out, I think the Lions are very confident about where they are at. And I think they have a player in mind for who they want at the number 2 overall selection. With that being said, Brad Holmes had a big segment of this press conference appointed to positional value. Now, this question was skewed towards the quarterback side of the argument, asking Brad Holmes, would they be willing to take a quarterback? Would they be willing to, invest in a quarterback at the number 2 overall position? And Brad Holmes, as they've said all offseason, essentially made it very clear that positional value is not something that they are taking very heavily into account. They are looking for the best player. They are looking for a playmaker, and they are looking for a game changer in this year's class. Brad Holmes was quoted as saying, "I've been saying all along that we're looking for a game changer at that pick, at really any pick." And he also then goes on to say that it doesn't really matter about the position, doesn't really matter about the positional value. If that guy is a playmaker and a game changer, he is on the Detroit Lions boards. Now, to me, this indicates that they are either in on Malik Willis or Kyle Hamilton, or maybe even both. Both of them are top players in this year's class that positionally you might not look at for the Detroit Lions, right? They have a starting quarterback. The safety position is extremely undervalued in the NFL and isn't really a typical position position you would take at number 2, and isn't really a typical position you would take at the number 2 overall spot. However, with these quotes and with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes repeating all offseason that positional value doesn't matter, that tells me that they're still very much in on Kyle Hamilton and Malik Willis, and that they are not focused solely on the edge rushers in this class. And honestly, it kind of opens up the conversation of whether or not a wide receiver could potentially go with the number 2 overall pick. I think that scenario is extremely unlikely, but you never know based off these positional value quotes and based off what they're saying about different positions. If the guy's a playmaker, he's on the board. And there's a lot of wide receivers in this class that are game changers and playmakers that could be added to the Detroit Lions. Now, moving on to the football character, this was a big talking point in Brad Holmes' press conference, and although it wasn't directly said, it was pretty clear that this comment, and it's very clear that this part of the press conference was skewed a little bit towards Kayvon Thibodeaux, right? Kayvon Thibodeaux is really the one big player in the top 5 this year that has these character concerns, has these off the field issues that are really turning teams away from the potential all-pro prospect. And Brad Holmes said that when he looks at football character, there are a couple things that he looks for. Quoted saying, being a good teammate, being accountable, but then you're talking about passion for football, perseverance, leadership, work ethic, and participation. All those things lead to what we call good football character. Now, while this might not mean that they are 100% out on Kayvon Thibodeaux, this does seem like the kind of quote that would maybe make you question whether Kayvon Thibodeaux is still on the board or not. The participation part of this quote really sticks out to me, as Kayvon Thibodeaux has been breaking media news for obviously not participating and not competing in the NFL Combine, opting to wait until his pro day to do so. And again, I think Kayvon Thibodeaux is a good teammate, like the quote says. I think that Kayvon Thibodeaux is a leader. I think he has a work ethic, but the perseverance and participation part of this quote really stick out to me as potentially maybe not being as in on Kayvon Thibodeaux as some people may have you believe, and that may be one of the reasons that the media believe the Lions are out on Kayvon Thibodeaux. Now, moving down to production versus potential, this is an argument that I have made all offseason. This is an argument that has been discussed. This is an argument that has been talked about, especially regarding Travon Walker. Travon Walker has elite upside and elite potential in this year's NFL class, but has some of the worst production you may ever see out of a top 5 pick. He has 9 sacks over 3 seasons as a full-time starter at the University of Georgia. Although his numbers and measurables are incredible, his production and statistics are not very good. Now again, although this question wasn't particularly skewed towards Travon Walker, although it wasn't specifically called out, it did seem like the question was a little bit skewed towards the product from Georgia. And Brad Holmes said this about production versus potential. Quote, "You can't ignore production, especially when you talk about defensive backs. Sometimes ball production is hard to come by, so guys touching the football a lot, you really can't ignore." Now this, I think, mentioning the defensive backs opens up the conversation again about Kyle Hamilton and about Sauce Gardner at the number 2 overall position. I think it's very interesting that he mentioned defensive backs when he was talking about production, and his immediate thing wasn't to go to Travon Walker. However, he did also go on to say that, but you also have to look at those critical factors of the actual player. Is he doing everything in his power, and does he have the skill set? And I don't think that Travon Walker has showed the skill set. I honestly don't think that the film on Travon Walker shows the skill set to get better, right? He's rushing with power. He's rushing with speed. He's rushing with his athleticism. He's not rushing with a plan. He's not rushing with moves. He's not really countering or, setting one thing up to, get to a second pass rushing move. He just isn't that guy. And to me, although again, like Kayvon Thibodeaux, this doesn't 100% put Walker out of the rankings, I think these quotes about production really drop his value, and Brad Holmes ended this quote and ended this segment by saying you can't ignore actual production because it's real and factual. And that is what I've been saying about Travon Walker. Yes, facts and statistics are not the only things you can look at while you are scouting some of these players, but at the end of the day, it's hard to ignore facts and it's hard to ignore statistics when they are staring you in the face and when they are as poor as what you've seen out of Trayvon Walker. So again, although this doesn't necessarily eliminate Trayvon Walker from draft discussions, I think it tells you that Brad Holmes may not be as high on Trayvon Walker as some of the NFL's draft media. And overall, I think this press conference did go a long way towards telling us which way the Detroit Lions are leaning. Going over some of these quotes again, the quote about participation makes me think that they are out on Kayvon Thibodeaux. The quote about production and the fact that you can't ignore this production because it's factual tells me that they may be out on Trayvon Walker. The quote about being a good teammate, having good work ethic, being a good leader, and all of the quotes about that football character fit Aiden Hutchinson to a T. I think Aiden Hutchinson is very much in the running for the number 2 overall pick if he is available at the number 2 overall pick. And I also think the production quote about defensive backs makes me think that they could also be leaning towards Kyle Hamilton as a potential option at number 2. So after this press conference, again, it's not 100%. It's all guessing. It's all reading between the lines, and it's all making educated guesses. But based off of this press conference, I would feel pretty confident saying the Detroit Lions are out on Kayvon Thibodeaux, are out on Trayvon Walker, and that they have their eyes set on either Aiden Hutchinson, Sauce Gardner, Malik Willis, or Kyle Hamilton. Those are the 4 players that I think have the best odds right now to go with the number 2 overall pick based off of the quotes that Dan Campbell has said and based off of the quotes that Brad Holmes has said. And if you want to go even a little bit deeper, if you want to talk about Dan Campbell's comments and quotes about the immediate contributor, I think you can even take Malik Willis off that list as well, leaving you with a top 3 of Hutchinson, Hamilton, and Sauce Gardner for your number 2 overall selections. Between one of those 3, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens on day 1 and night 1 of the NFL draft. Well, with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this press conference. Let me know what you guys think about these quotes from Brad Holmes and whether or not you think these quotes are telling you all of where the Lions may be looking to go in the NFL draft. I'd be very curious what you guys think, but with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.